Hello, everyone. I'm Jamie Flinchball here with another episode of the People Solve Problems podcast, and today we're here with Ron Pereira. Ron, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Jamie?
I'm great. So we've done this a few times the other way, where you've been the host and I've been the guest. So I'm
Yeah,
excited to
this is
flip,
fun.
flip the tables on you a bit. But Ron is well known, especially for anybody on LinkedIn, I think. As active as he and his organization are, but is the co-founder and managing director of Gemba Academy, which is a subsidiary of the Forum Media Group, a recent transformation for Gemba Academy. He's been very passionate about helping others leverage Lean and Six Sigma in order to make the world a better place. And you have to say that the spirit in which you engage people certainly mirrors that culturally and behaviorally. So thank you
Well, thanks.
for being a
Thanks,
positive
Jamie.
voice in the world of Lean and Six Sigma.
Thanks.
So, you've produced a lot of content over the years. You've done a lot of, training, mostly, virtually to video, et
Mhm.
cetera. Lots and lots of content, which really meant you've needed to cast a wide net, a wide aperture, as I like to say, around things like problem solving. So I'd love to hear from you because you kind of have to be a little unbiased in this approach. Is how do you explore, experiment with, adopt, integrate different problem-solving techniques throughout your history as both a user and as a teacher?
No, that's yeah, good question. I mean, just start even just from myself, even prior to Gemba Academy, as a young sort of engineer and got into various continuous improvement movements, if you will. I actually started more on the Six Sigma side just because the company I worked at, that's what they were doing. And then later met John Miller, my now business partner, and the whole world of Lean was introduced to me.
Right.
But even back then, I felt like one of the opportunities that I had was that I had a pretty good understanding of things like Six Sigma, project management, Lean. And so I was able to sort of, pick and choose what I believed was the right methodology for that particular situation. And so like I'm a big believer in, learn as much as you can about all aspects of continuous improvement and don't get so hung up. And sometimes you'll see the hardcore, Six Sigma camp or the Lean camp or the theory of constraint camp, and they're very passionate about their camp, and I'm like,
Right.
that's cool. Your camps are all really cool. I can learn from all of you. And I try to learn from all of them. And so that's probably my approach from problem solving is, try to understand a variety of approaches, methodologies, if you will. And sometimes it's as straightforward as let's just go let's try this experiment. It's not, you don't need to overcomplicate it, right?
Right.
And just get in. Don't always need a big project charter or something. Sometimes you do, but sometimes it's like, hey, we've got this thing, let's go try this and see what we learn. And so I don't know, that's sort of my approach, is to try to understand, a bunch of different approaches to problem solving, and then pick the one that I believe will have the best chance of success, early on. And then experiment and learn. That's what it's all about. Experiment and learn, and don't have that mindset of like, don't be so sure, as they say within our, Lean community sometimes. Like, don't be so sure you think
Right.
you know what the answer is. Like, it's okay to have a hypothesis, but let's test that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great. I mean, if you look at a lot of the places that you would go to for fairly dogmatic extraction of learning, those have all evolved, right?
Yep.
And so if even the source of dogmatic material isn't fixed. It
Yeah,
evolves
exactly.
and changes. And
Exactly.
I think I guess I've been able to watch you evolve in your thinking, not all the way back to that history, but as you continue to create new content and evolve the content of Gemba Academy, and I think I do enjoy how you do take a wide aperture approach. I try to do that as well. I'm probably not as good as you at sort of, I don't say mentally cataloging, the source material, right? What was the
Mhm.
original intent? I kind of grab things, integrate them, and then forget where they came from. Uh, but I don't know if there's a wrong approach there. But the point
Yeah.
is, learning and integrating, experimenting, right? Like, let's
Yeah.
go try it, I think is
Yep.
key. So one of the hardest parts about problem solving, I believe, and actually an area where I think both Lean and Six Sigma, I don't want to say fall short, but are underwhelming in how much substance they give us in terms of training, is the actual creation of ideas, right? Which I like to call ideation, is usually referred to as brainstorming, um, but so that's a challenge. We don't get a lot of ideas for that and direction around that because it's hard. So how do you approach that, either with your own team, for yourself, or in your training? How do you think about ideation or brainstorming?
So my two colleagues, that John Miller and Kevin Meyer, so the three of us co-founded Gemba Academy back in 2009, and so we're still the management leadership team of the company present day. And we've got a really interesting way. I think maybe Kevin probably gets credit for this. I don't know, but it's not very sophisticated, so I'm not going to blow anybody away with, oh my gosh, that's what they do. But I'll tell you what we do when we have something that we want to flesh out, or we want to just really come up with different ideas, or maybe it's a risk assessment or something like that. Kevin starts a Google document and he shares it with me and John. And he starts typing on it. I open it. I'm typing on it. John opens it. He's typing on it. And then everybody goes away for a day or two. And then I'll have more idea. I open it back up. We just put everything we can, or John's famous for highlighting one of mine and asking a follow-up question. And I'm like, well, here's why I said that. And by the end of it, we've got this big thing, right? And then Kevin does a great job of sort of distilling it down then into the sort of the key points or the main points. But I'm telling you, we have come up with so many great ideas and solve some real operational problems, and just various things with just that. It's just all about collaborating and having a way, whether you're in a room with post-it notes, and we've all done that as well. That's also beautiful, but just having a way for everyone's voice to be heard. And some people have more powerful personalities than others, and so that's the challenge of verbal only, because
Mhm.
a big mouth like me, I won't shut up, and John might be more quiet, but he's got way better ideas than I do, more than likely, so we need to find a way for someone who might not be as outspoken to have that voice. So that's sort of our approach, is that we just we're not together, we're all in different states. So finding a digital platform like Google Drive or something like that works for us. But that's that's how I go about it and how we go about it. Now, we've got some other classical ways. Like, I am a big believer in get a piece of flip chart paper and just start writing, and get ideas and start writing. Don't paraphrase. That's the other thing. Do not paraphrase someone when they say something. Write what they said on the flip chart paper. And also, flip the page, people. How many times do you see, like, oh, we only got one piece of paper, so the guy's writing really small? No. Flip the page and keep going, right? So, but just finding that way for people to have their voice heard,
Mhm.
I think is the secret, at least
Yeah.
from my perspective.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of great nuggets there. As an introvert myself, when it came to problem solving, I always found my passion for the problem, and the passion for the idea would outweigh my introversion, right? But
Yeah.
I'd get it out there and I'd advocate
Yep.
hard. But that it certainly is a barrier. And I think finding other ways to engage all the people, and then as you said, being in three different locations, many times three different time zones,
Yeah.
it's quite challenging. So you kind of need other tools. I know some people. I've used Miro for a while now, and there's other tools for such collaboration. They just, as soon as there's a discussion that requires collaboration, they start a new Miro board, and then boom, we can use
Yeah.
post-its, we can write stuff, we can dump documents, whatever we need to do, just free reign.
Yeah.
Uh, so That's pretty cool. So let me ask a follow-up because I think this is an interesting dynamic, which is challenging for some people. Is the three of you as the co-founders have been together a long time. And so how much do you rely on knowing how each other think, trusting each other, all of that to do that collaboration and that brainstorming? So what are the ingredients that the three of you sort of already bring to the table before that Google Docs even opened?
Yeah, wonderful question. And I feel like we were lucky. I believe in business, there's a lot to say for luck.
Yeah.
Right. We started this company in March of 2009. So if you want to open up the S&P 500 and go back to March of 2009, you'll see this like the bottom of the bear market kind of thing. So timing, we were lucky, but I also think we're very lucky that the three of us are so radically different.
Mhm.
Um, you know, we're different in many ways, and just our personalities, politically, everything. We're just wildly different. And I think that's been our greatest strength. And the way that we make it our strength is that we deeply respect one another.
Mhm.
Deeply. Like I know exactly where Kevin and John land on pretty much any topic of this world, and they know where I land. And so we respect each other. So that's where it begins. Like even before you think about your professional skills and all that kind of stuff, just having a deep respect for one another. Doesn't mean we agree,
Right.
but we respect, right? So it starts there. But taking it a step further, we all just right out of the gate all sort of understood, even without saying it, what our strengths were. Like I was the guy on all the videos in the beginning. I'm not in really very many of them anymore, but but in the beginning, I didn't care. I would do it. I did a lot of training and I didn't mind doing it. I liked training. And so I was the person on video. Kevin's always been sort of our financial wizard, CFO kind of guy. John's always been super smart on content and all the rest of it. And so we all sort of found our niches. Um, but then as it relates to sort of like how we deal with problems, I think we tap all of our strengths individually as we're going through a particular problem. So there might be something that's more financially motivated, if you will. And like I know enough to be dangerous on the financials, but Kevin's our guy, right? And
Right.
so sometimes your skill set and your knowledge stack, if you will, is going to dictate who sort of takes the lead on that.
Right.
I'm pretty decent with people and that sort of thing. And so that's why I'm kind of the managing director now. So like from a organizational perspective, like I'm kind of running the company. I mean, technically John and Kevin report to me, as weird as that is,
Right.
but again, it's all about respect and it's all about collaboration. And just doing what's best for the company and taking any sort of selfish motivation or pride or ego and just sort of laying that on the ground and saying, no, there's no place for pride. There's no place for ego. It's for our company. And so what's the best use of our individual talents for this company? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And as you're talking through that, I'm reflecting on my time as co-founder with Andy Carlino, and we started off actually very different, and that made us very strong. What I found is that we spent so much time together. We probably were very similar by the time we were done with
Yeah.
that run. And but we did, we had our own methods, and we reserved, what's a together decision, what are we so sure we know how the other thinks we can make it alone. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm reflecting on some of my own experiences as you talk through that
Mhm.
story.
Yeah.
So let's talk about roles in problem solving. That whole story helped illuminate that anyway, right? Because you all have some different roles, but also collaborate. Um, and again, you come at this as a guy running an organization, but also as a teacher, instructor, coach of this stuff. But how do you make decisions around roles and problem solving? Everything from owning it to delegating it to sponsoring it to coaching it. There's so many different options that we can play different roles. So how do you think about that?
Yeah, like I'm a big believer in this is the Toyota Kata community sort of came up with this phrase. It wasn't mine, but have a coach, be a coach, and I really do believe in that there's, obviously the people who, report to me, they're going to look to me for, advice as far as, from a leadership perspective. And so I'm there to support them. But early on in my career, I would say that even when that was the case, I had the tendency to be like, well, I can do that. You just give it to me and I'll fix it, and I realized quickly that, first of all, that's not scalable. And then secondly, I can sell, but I'm not as good as Jennifer, Scott at selling, you know what I mean? And so I got to be able to leverage the strengths of my colleagues, and I'm not doing them or the company any favor by pretending that I can, solve the problem better than they could. So again, I think that whole thing of pride and ego can just get in the way of problem solving, because you selfishly want to fix it for your own dopamine hit, and you really need to get over that and find a way to get that dopamine hit when you see your colleague or your subordinate or even your superior solve that problem, and you played a part in that. You can still feel good about that, right? So but I don't know, like, and delegating is so difficult for some people, but you've even folks on my team who have people reporting to them, I see them holding on. I'm like, you got to let go. You got to let go. You got to trust the process, have a good process, trust that process, monitor that process. If the process isn't working, we can make tweaks to the process, but you've got to entrust that process and not try to do it all yourself. Because you just, one person is not scalable. Right. So.
No, I love where you started, was that, have a coach, be a coach, is the reason we don't let doctors self-medicate, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to have blind spots. It's easy
Yep.
not to ask yourself all the right tough questions, and I think we all need somebody to challenge our thinking. They don't have to know even a lot about problem solving. If you just say, hey, challenge me,
Yeah.
poke at it. So Kata provides a method. A lot of problem solving provides a method, but fundamentally the role is just, sometimes you're just there to challenge someone's thinking and ensure that they don't have blind spots, their heads aren't down, and they're ignoring what they shouldn't. So
yeah, exactly.
So, as you mentioned, you kind of take care of I'll say the people side, right, of the organization, and Gemba Academy has always had a, serve the many people in the organization sort of, I'll say, philosophy or a strategy, as opposed to just giving content learning to the critical few. But that means, coaching, as you just talked about, how does it meet the needs of the individual, meets the needs of the team? And so both as a boss, as a leader, and again as an instructor, how do you modify adjusting to the needs of the coachee or the
Yeah. So I'm a big believer in, behavioral based sort of temperaments, and not as straightforward as introvert extrovert. I mean, that's a very, it's not always as straightforward as that, right? And so there's the whole movement called NLP, which I'm not to pretend to be an expert in it, neuro linguistic programming, like just trying to understand the person that you're trying to connect with, but what makes them work, right? And so, if I'm dealing with a colleague who I know is, kind of soft spoken, or, just not real excitable or whatever, I'm going to try to, for sure, respect that and try to sort of meet them where they are. So I think a big part of being a good coach and being a good leader is being able to, put the learner at ease, as we say in the TWI movement, put the learner at ease and really try to help them relax and be comfortable, and trust is earned obviously over time. But when you're able to have a comfortable interaction with someone, that's such an important step that I think is often missed. And so that's what I try to do. I mean, you can talk to someone for 5 seconds and you have an understanding of kind of where this person's temperament is coming from. And it might even be that they're having a really bad day. Right. And you just hear that in their voice. And so, you can show empathy or whatever it might be, whatever. It's not that you're trying to be fake. You're not. You're trying to be authentic, but you're trying to authentically connect with that person and put them at ease so that you and them can have the best use of your time together. Right. And so I think that's the approach of whether it's, PDCA, PDSA, whatever. It's not as important in my opinion, because it all works. You just got to do it. Right. But it's about people. My dad used to tell me that. He said, Ronnie, it's about people. You got to learn how to deal with people. And he preached that over and over and over as a young man, and especially in college and early in my career when my dad was still alive. And I just remember that, like how passionate he was about, it's all about people. And obviously within our lean movement, amen, right? That's what we're all about, is people. So
wonderful. Probably not a better way to end than a tribute to your dad and what he taught. So that's fantastic. So thanks for being a guest. Ron Pereira, a leader, a learner, a coach. Really appreciate you sharing your experience and your wisdom with us today.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Appreciate the opportunity, Jamie.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the People Solve Problems podcast. Let's keep the conversation going. Visit jflinch.com for more episodes and other content. And continue to join us on your podcast app, of course. We greatly appreciate your feedback through reviews and ratings. Consider expanding your understanding of problem solving with Jamie's book, People Solve Problems: The Power of Every Person, Every Day, Every Problem. Available on Amazon. Until next time, keep learning, innovating, and solving problems.